Hey everyone, Christina Simmons from Say Yes to Holiness here. So I wanted to share today about how it is that we can share the peace and joy of Easter with others. And one of the best ways that we can do this is by us being grateful so that we are filled with God's joy. One of the biggest things that an article entitled Supernatural Spirit and Good Humor, and the author, Mr. Reggio, he shares that joy is the first tribute that we owe God. It's the simplest, most sincere way of showing that we're aware of the gifts of nature and the grace that he showers upon us, and which we thank him for. So one of the biggest things that we can do to share joy with others is for us to be filled with joy. And when we're filled with joy, then other people are, they gravitate towards that, and then they too are filled with joy. And this is how others are brought to God. One of the biggest things that I learned from a former pastor of mine is that he said very simply that others, have to experience God's love through us. And this is the same thing for joy. People need to experience joy themselves, so then they themselves are open up to joy. And when we're living with this new spirit, this new resurrection spirit, then it's going to be spread to everybody that we're in contact with. Right now, we have the opportunity to be like the first Christians, to sow peace and joy. And this is the peace and joy that Jesus brought to us. So you might notice, for those of you who might be Chosen fans, so you can kind of see it. So I've got my Chosen shirt on this morning. And partially that's because this is a beautiful way to be able to share the peace and joy of Jesus with others. Sit down and watch The Chosen with them. You can watch it through the Chosen app, or you can go to chosentv.com and watch it there, and there's no cost. But the fact is that when we have joy, when we have excitement, and we're sharing, then what happens is people, when we're sharing the good news, then what happens is that people are excited and they are filled with joy and hope as well. And this is where having a very happy household comes in, because when we're practicing the virtues of generosity and kindness and being courteous with one another, and we are practicing, a spirit of service and love, then what happens is that then joy abounds, because we're not arguing with one another. We're not, at one another's throats. Rather, what's happening is that we are a household that's filled with joy. So each time that we are able to be like Christ for one another, to love the other, remember, love is to will the good of the other. Each time that we do this, then we're able to be filled with joy and to fill others with joy. And this brings about peace. And this is how we can go ahead and bring a serene, kindly joy to not just our families, but to our workplaces, also anywhere that we go, out to the grocery store, or out to eat. Anything that we're doing, we're able to bring this peace and this joy with us. And what happens then is that because the world is so apprehensive, it's so anxious, it's so wound up, then they are able to experience this peace and joy that the Lord has given us, and they'll want some of that too. But they first have to experience it through us. And so joy, again, gives us that opportunity to bring Christ's message of peace, that God desires to be in relationship with us, that he sent his only son so that he might suffer and die for us, so that that bridge, that chasm that is between us and God could be repaired, so that we can have eternal life with God. God's not sitting there going, oh, I'm going to banish you. No, he's not saying, I want to condemn you. No, rather, he sent his only begotten son. He so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son so that we might have eternal life. John 3:16. So one of the biggest things that happens is that we are able, when we share joy, And people are then open to experiencing Jesus's peace. The peace that Jesus has given us, we can share with them. And when that happens, then a conversion of heart happens. And then they're open, truly open to hearing the good news. And this is also important for us. We need to have this interior joy because it's a state of mind that we need to have to be able to comply with all of our duties and obligations, for us to be able to be obedient and to do God's will in our daily lives. We need to have this interior joy. And the greater our responsibility that we have, the greater we have as an obligation to have this peace and joy in our hearts. So let's keep in mind, as we're getting closer to May, that Mary is the most beautiful example of this. So let's think of her joy and the fact that she was so open to all the joy of the resurrection. And she lived that perfect joy that was given to her by Christ. So we have the great blessing of the fact that she too is our mother. And that's actually one of the reasons why, one of the ways that we can more fully live out the life of abundance that God desires for us is by making a Marian consecration. For those of you who have already made your Marian consecration, to renew your consecration is a good thing to do as well. And that's a part of why I'm going to be leading a consecration group, a Marian consecration group. It's going to begin April 28th. It's going to go until May 31st. And what will happen is that each day we'll just gather at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time each morning in a Zoom call, or I'll send out the replay. And I'm just going to be doing the prayers, and then just a very, very short reflection on the prayer or the reflection of the day. And then we continue our journey together until we make our consecration on May 31st, which is the visitation. Celebrate the day of the visitation where Mary went to Elizabeth. So in the same way, I want to bring Mary to you. If you have not experienced having her as an integral part of your spiritual life, give you that opportunity to do that. So check out in the show notes the link to be able to sign up, or you can go to my website, www.sayyestoholiness.com, and you can sign up for the Marian consecration there as well. So thanks again for your time. I hope that you found this to be of great value, particularly so that you can bring the peace and joy of Jesus Christ, who has filled us with his peace and joy at Easter, a special way, to be able to share that with others. Have a blessed week.